Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back to the rundown. Unfortunately, Kason Davis cannot be with us today because he's back in Miami getting himself situated. But we do have a special guest with us today, 2018 NCAA champion, current national team member, 2021 Olympic hopeful, Mike Macchiavello. What's going on, my man? How you doing?
Hello, my man. Appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited to be on.
I appreciate you coming on with me, man. I'm really excited about this, man. So, as I noted earlier, you were a national champion for the NC State Wolfpack, North Carolina State Wolfpack. I believe you were a 2 or 3 time national qualifier for them.
Twice, yeah. Qualified twice.
Two-time,
2017, 2018. Yeah.
right? So, let's start from the beginning. How did you get your start in wrestling? Was it a family thing or with like a neighborhood thing? How did you get your start in wrestling?
Oh man, so it wasn't a family thing. It was more so I had a buddy of mine that I was real close with that I played football with. He was from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And he wrestled before he had moved down to North Carolina, and then he convinced me to come try out for the team. And the middle school wrestling coach, when I was in 8th grade, came to a practice one day, and they just told me, "Hey, you should come try out for the team." And I was like, "I'm not wearing those singlets." And they were like, I said, "I'll wrestle if I can wrestle in shorts and a t-shirt." And they said, "Yep, absolutely." So I wrestled in shorts and a t-shirt my first match in 8th grade, and that's kind of how I got started.
Oh, it's crazy. So are you an advocate of the two-piece thing? Because that was a really big thing a couple years ago about getting rid of the singlet.
So I saw it got a lot of heat, man. But to be honest, I think for a state like North Carolina, it's actually good because it's a state where the culture of wrestling isn't as strong as the Northeast or the Midwest. And I feel like for a state like that, like you got to do whatever you can to create interest in the sport to get people involved. You know what I mean? And if it's something as simple as going from a singlet to a two-piece and you get more kids to sign up, then why not? That doesn't, and again, like you get used to wrestling in a two-piece. Once you get to college and you get a scholarship offer or you get an opportunity to be a Division I athlete, you're just going to be like, I don't even care anymore. And you're an adult. You kind of think about things differently. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think it's good, man, especially for states like North Carolina. But I am a fan of the classic singlet
All right.
more than the two-piece, but I'm not upset about the two-piece. You know what I mean?
Wait, you brought up the state of wrestling out in North Carolina. I know for years in the past it hasn't really been the strongest state, but I feel like now, especially with like the emergence of UNC with Coleman Scott and everybody over there, and Kenny Monday running their athletic club over there, and NC State, how well you guys have done over the years, and how good the regional training center is over there. What do you feel like the impact is that the college programs and the regional training centers have had on the high school landscape of wrestling out in North Carolina?
I think it's making a big difference, man. I'm starting to see. Hopefully, that just starts to create more interest. I think it's creating a fan base, which I think is also where it starts. Like, you create fans and people that want to show up to dual meets, and then their kids come and they see the atmosphere that's there, and it excites them, and then that gets them interested in the sport. So I think that's been good. But I mean, you think about schools like App State. App State just had this year alone, they just had, I think it was 4 NCAA qualifiers or something like that, and all of them are like they had the most North Carolina native NCAA qualifiers this year. And so App State's doing a good job. UNC's getting there. They're doing a great job. Obviously, we've been continuing to try our best to pave the way at State. Duke just hired Nathan Tomasello as a grad assistant.
I saw that.
So like that's going to be big for Duke. And Campbell University, Colat just left, but he was doing good stuff at Campbell. And so but with the ODU, ODU got the program cut. Darryl, who was an assistant coach there, just became an assistant coach at Campbell as well, and he was doing a great job at ODU. So it'll be good to see how these teams continue to progress and just kind of help the overall state of North Carolina in general.
Right. Well, I want to get back to you real quick. you were in high school. What how did your progression? Because I'm assuming you started in the 8th grade, so I'm assuming you're very raw at that time. Maybe there's people who were a little ahead of you, so they were able to kind of know a little more, maybe get the best of you at the time. How did your progression take place, and when did you really consider yourself a wrestler?
Man, I don't think I really started to consider myself a wrestler until my sophomore year of college, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but I never wrestled year round in high school. I only wrestled in season. I went to Flow Nationals though twice, my junior and senior year, and I placed there. But high school, man, I was playing club soccer for a travel team. In the spring, I was playing football through the summer and fall, and then I would just wrestle in season. I did that all 4 years. I played 3 sports, and then I took a couple official visits for football, college football, and it wasn't until even my freshman year, I even asked, it was my freshman or sophomore year, I asked Frank Beasley on our way back from University Nationals, the freestyle tournament, in the offseason. I was like, hey, Frank, I was wondering if you guys would be willing to let me try out for the football team. Oh. He said no. It didn't even take 2 seconds. But even at that point, now that you mention it, I really thought myself as, I'm a football soccer player who just happens to be athletic enough to be able to wrestle. And it wasn't until I really started to consider myself a wrestler and started to invest more into the sport and just really think like, okay, this is the type of athlete that I am. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a good question. I've never been asked that.
Well, you were a multi-sport athlete.
Yeah.
What made you choose? Well, this is kind of a 2-part question. So, what made you choose wrestling? Coming out of high school, and I know you said you mentioned taking visits for football. What visits did you take for wrestling? What made you want to go Division I, and how did you end up at NC State? I guess it's a couple-part question there.
Yeah, so I actually took an official visit to Bucknell, and I took an official visit to NC State. Those are my only 2 wrestling official visits. I took an unofficial visit to UVA wrestling, and then I took an official visit to University of Charleston, West Virginia for football, and I took an official visit to Wingate University for football. And I was getting offered money by both of those schools, and they wanted me to play safety. I actually tried to commit to Bucknell, so I've actually never mentioned this to anybody, but when I was in high school, after my official visit to Bucknell, it was a good academic school, and I remember not really wanting to go there when I had taken the visit, but I think at that time I was just thinking, man, academics is most important, and I was trying to think life beyond sport. And I called them up and I told them I had, I think I want to commit, and they were just like, we have no more slots available. And then next thing you know, I was like, all right, not a big deal. Called Frank Beasley, told him I wanted to verbally commit. Boom, verbally committed. And yeah, so that's kind of. But I also had a lot of interest in NC State too because it was relatively close to home, and Jamil Kelly was on staff at the time, who was an Olympic silver medalist, and I sat with Frank and Pat, and they kind of just sold me on the vision, and they wanted to win a team title as a team, and I just thought that was really cool to be a part of something that would start from the bottom and go to the top. You know what I mean? That song, Start From the Bottom, Now We're Here. The team goes from 61st in the country or 64th in the country when I was a senior to finishing 4th my last year of college. So, but yeah, so those are the visits I took when I was in high school.
Man, so we got breaking news on the show. NCAA champion Mike Macchiavello could have ended up at Bucknell. I don't know how the people up in PA feel about that, man.
Crazy though, man.
It really
things happen, man.
So I want to get into your college career a little bit, because I know you were a starter out the gate, correct? You redshirted your 2nd or 3rd year.
Yep, 3rd year I redshirted, started out the gate, but it was kind of back and forth. So I actually had lost both my wrestle-offs at the beginning of the year. So Wolfpack Open was wrestling for 34th place. Pat tells me, and Shane Brady, who was the other 184-pounder at the time, hey, whoever wins this is going to be the starter for next 2 meets. This is y'all's wrestle-off. Score is like 0-0 going in the 2nd period. I start on bottom. I go up, boom, cradles me and pins me. lose that wrestle off, get caught in the pin, in the cradle. I get a second opportunity to wrestle off for 197 against Lee Davis.
Right.
And I lost 3-2 for 197. So I lost both wrestle offs, but I just kept working hard, man, and they would still throw me out because of just matchups. I mean, you know how it is. Sometimes you have a kid who's just stylistically a good matchup for another wrestler. And I think just because I was athletic and had a gas tank, I could keep from getting bonus pointed as opposed to maybe somebody else. And I think the coaches would throw me out as a strategic, like, hey, we know Mock's not going to get bonus pointed and he might pull out a win, you know. So that's how I ended up getting the starting spot and then wrestling the ACC tournament. And then sophomore year, lost the starting spot, lost my wrestle off to Nikki Hall, who was a national prep champ from Wyoming Sim, New York guy, Long Island guy.
I know Nikki Hall very well.
Yep, that's your people. He's from the same neck of the woods you are. And, so I lost my wrestle off, locked hands call, man, lost by a point. So I was upset about that. He wrestled the ACC tournament, and I decided to redshirt the following year. And then, so that's just kind of how it went into redshirt. Things just started to really change and click for me. Redshirt junior year was the 10-seeded national tournament, round of 12, and year after ended up winning.
So what went into that progression? Like what exactly was there mentality change? Was there specific people you were working with that helped you get from that level of being a starter early and losing that spot to getting to where you were?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. I think mentality-wise, I still was super driven, man. I was just very, very determined. I didn't want to accept anything less than what the goal was, but every year I would put in the same amount of work and I would just feel like I wasn't getting anywhere close and I was just falling short. So it was kind of hard to trust that I was progressing the way I wanted to, and started meeting a sports psych my sophomore year. Didn't think anything of it. I was just like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I don't want to have any regrets by the time I graduate. And I don't want to think, man, this was a resource at state when I was there. I wish I would have tried it out. So I was like, I'm going to just try it out just to say I did. Ended up liking it, and it ended up using Michelle Josh, who was a sports psych at NC State for the next 4 years. And, man, just continue to work on the technical aspect of things and just got a lot better over time, man, and just stuck with it.
Right. So you come in, you're the starter at 184. You mentioned national qualifier round of 12. The following year, you go up to 197 pounds. Kind of talk to me about what went into that decision to move up a weight class.
To be honest, it wasn't much. So Pat just told us, hey, you and Pete Render are both two really good wrestlers at 184. We don't want to have two guys at your caliber at the same weight class. So you guys figure it out. So me and Pete went in the locker room. I was just like, hey, what weight class do you want to go? He goes, I don't care. What weight class do you want to go? I said, doesn't matter to me. So we sat there. I was like, all right, if you had to pick one, which one would you choose? He goes, probably 184. I was like, all right, well, you go 184 and I'll go 97. 2-minute conversation, and that's just how it was decided.
Wow, that's crazy. Just thinking about, where you ended up, the fact that, it was a simple conversation as that is real crazy for me to hear. But that season in particular was a really interesting one. I noticed the thing about you guys is you've always had a pretty, under Pat since he's taken over, you guys have always had pretty solid teams out there. But, I think you guys have always been kind of looked up as the middle of the pack. I know for a fact that the aura in that room or the expectations in that room is national championships. Going into that year, I know Colin Moore was ranked first in the country. I remember watching on the ACC network, it was you up against him, about 10 seconds left. And this is kind of what I've gathered from watching you in your career. This is about 10 seconds left. He's up on you, tight match. You ended up getting a takedown to win. Can you kind of talk to me about, that match specifically, knowing who he was already? He's a return All-American, favorite to win it and everything. What were your thoughts going into the match? Did you know going in, like, you can beat this guy, and just, what was the strategy there?
Yeah, so to be honest, just because he was ranked number one in the country didn't really mean much to me. Obviously, I knew it could mean a lot as far as seeding goes for the NCAA tournament. But I've been thinking about this year and preparing for this whole entire season and that year's NCAA tournament, for a couple of years, man. So I started to approach things in a way where it was like, doesn't matter if you're not ranked at all or if you're the number one guy in the country or number one guy in the world. I'm going to approach every single match the exact same mentally, and just get ready to compete. So that way my performance is consistent. And so going to that match, man, I just treated it like any other match. Didn't change anything, just competed the way I knew I could. And I was confident that, honestly, like, I was going to win. If I didn't, it wasn't going to be a big deal. So I didn't put pressure on myself, but I absolutely knew it was doable. I just went out there and competed. It kind of started off strong, but then I got ducked. It was a nice little misdirection duck, man. He's a talented wrestler. And he scored a misdirection duck on me at the end of the first, went into the second period with a lead. I think he chose down and escaped. Third period, I chose down and escaped, and ended up scoring 2 takedowns at the end of the third period to win.
So, going on in that season, you went on to be an ACC champion against Jared Hott of Virginia Tech, correct?
Yeah.
I
lost to Hott, triple OT.
Say that again?
I lost to Jared, triple OT.
In the ACC championships?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was 0-2 going against him going into the NCAA finals.
Okay, so now I really want to dive into this here, because that NCAA tournament out in Cleveland was real interesting. Colin Moore, who we just talked about, was the number 1 seed. He gets upset in the quarterfinals of that tournament. Were you like looking to see what was going on at all throughout your bracket, or you were just focused on you and what you had to do?
Just focus on what I had to do. I think it's not wise to try and look ahead, because it kind of distracts you a little bit from who you're going to have to compete and who's in front of you. And you overlook an opponent, man, in a tournament like that, you run the risk of putting yourself in a position to lose or get upset. So for me, it was just, this tournament's crazy. Anything can happen. Anybody can make it to the next round. So I just wanted to focus and make sure that I was getting to the next round before I started worrying about who I might have and not actually make it. So just focus on me and what I had to do.
Well, talk to me about your path, because you had an interesting path as well. I know Shakur Rashid, another Long Island
guy. That's your guy.
Yeah, he's actually from the same high school as Nicky Hall before he ended up moving to Wyoming Sim. You ended up facing him in that tournament. Just talk to me about your path and had to get to the finals.
Yeah, man. So I think first round I wrestled Tom Lane from Cal Poly, and then Jared Kuznick from Kasunik from American, Shakur in the quarters, Kyle Cannell in the semis, and then Jared Hott in the finals. Shakur was a tough match, man. I had to come back from behind to win that one in the quarters, but first 2 rounds, major decisions. Shakur in the quarters, last second takedown. Kyle Cannell got a pin, and then Jared Hott last second takedown at the end of the third.
Well, with Cannell, he had just come off that big win against Colin Moore.
Well, he beat him twice. I think
third place as well.
Yeah.
What did you have any thoughts going into that, knowing that he had just upset Moore? Was it just like, I already beat Moore myself, or it's whatever? Was there a strategy for you, or you were just kind of flowing?
Nah, I just knew, okay, just make sure I don't give him the opportunity to go upper body. Don't let him lock his hands, because he had been running through the tournament with some throws. And so I just needed to make sure, okay, avoid that position and just stick to what I'm good at, and just wrestle for 7 minutes. So.
And then against Hott, you mentioned you had lost to him twice already. What was your feelings going into that national finals match? Did you talk to Pat and everybody about like a game plan specific for him, or what was going on there?
Yeah, so Pat was trying to game plan a little bit in the tunnel before the walkout and stuff. It's like, hey, if it goes into overtime, blah, 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 blah. And I said, Pat, I was warming up. I had my headphones on. I was trying to get in the zone, and he wouldn't leave me alone. He was just kind of like messing up my focus. I was trying to get locked in, and he just kept trying to talk to me. And I was like, Pat, I'm going to get this done. I interrupted him. I said, Pat, I'm getting this done in 7. And I just put my earphones back on. I walked away, didn't even let him finish, and then just kept warming up. So yeah, man, I think my mentality that whole tournament was just extremely confident. Granted, anything can happen, man. I don't think with confidence you have to have this like unrealistic type aura about yourself where it's like you're invincible. I think it's this elite type of confidence where you realize you're not invincible, but in order to win, you're gonna have to execute at the best of your ability at the highest level. So it was just a really, really calm confidence, and win or lose, I knew I was gonna be all right, you know. So just trying to stay locked in and focused. And I know too, like my mentality when I wrestle somebody, if I lose, it's like, okay, I never want to lose the same way twice. And so I had lost to him 2 times already, and I had made the adjustments from the first match going into the second. And then after I'd lost the second time, I made the adjustments leading into the NCAA tournament. So by the third time, I was just kind of even more confident about the match because I've seen this guy twice. I've lost to him twice. I've made those adjustments. It's going to be really, really hard for him to beat me a third time. So I just felt really good about it.
So, you know, you win that championship. What does it feel like? You kind of talked to me a little bit about it when I got a chance to hang out with you. But like, what's it like? You know, you're part of you know, a small group of guys from NC State that are national champions. So like, did it hit you right away? Did it take time? Like the fact that you beat somebody that you hadn't beaten before. Like, what's going through your head?
Yeah, man, it didn't really hit me for a couple weeks, to be honest. It was really, really cool to walk out of the arena and people are like, "Yo, you just won. You're Mike Macchiavello," and they're like, "Yo, you won me money tonight," or something. People throwing bets on brackets and stuff, and kind of like how they do March Madness. So that was cool. But yeah, for me, it was just you try and approach the tournament like it's any other tournament, so it doesn't really hit you until a couple weeks later, and just things around you start to change, and then that's when you start to realize when it's like, hey, this is actually a big deal. Because I think I don't want to say I downplayed it, but I just kind of I really did view it as any other tournament. I tried to not make it special, just so I didn't have all this extra pressure or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. And so a couple weeks, maybe a month, and then I was like, man, this is actually a really big deal. Like people are, you know, life changes a little bit. And I described it to somebody. It was like, it's like getting drafted, except you're not getting the signing bonus or the big contract. You know, so it was definitely a really cool experience. And it's crazy how after you win an NCAA title, people listen to you a little bit more. Like they're just more engaged and they're more interested in what you have to say as opposed to before that. You know, like I could be saying the same exact thing, not winning an NCAA title, but there'd be less interest. But because I have this like accolade or achievement behind my name, it's like, oh, this guy did something. We should listen to what he has to say. But I think the process of winning is simple, man. Like it's all the same.
Right. Well, I got another question here for you, and I'm going to get in this one with Tommy as well when I talk to him. Probably Gwiz as well.
You got some two good
Yeah,
guests.
we got a nice lineup. We got a nice lineup,
man.
With NC State specifically under Pat, what I've been noticing is you guys, because like with you were an All-American and Flow Nationals, state champ out in North Carolina, but you know, so you were a good wrestler coming out of high school, but maybe not the cream of the crop blue chip recruit. Like, were you ranked in the top 100 coming out? So, like, that's kind of the thing I noticed with a lot of the teams Pat puts together, like a Tariq Wilson, a very good wrestler, but not a great wrestler coming out. Tommy Gann, even though he didn't come in under Pat, you know, a good wrestler, but not a great wrestler coming out. What I kind of noticed with NC State is they take a lot of guys who are pretty good coming out and they get them to college and, you know, like yourself, they turn them into high All-Americans, national champions. What is it about NC State that they're able to get the best out of these guys?
I think a lot of it's honestly a mentality. I think there's a certain expectation that we have ourselves as athletes when we come in. He recruits kids with a specific type of mindset, specific type of lifestyle, kids that are really, really locked in, focused in. That doesn't mean we don't have fun, right? Like we enjoy practice. We enjoy being around each other. We have a really, really fun, like, hanging out, messing with each other, just very like family-like atmosphere. But I think at the same time, we just have high expectations of ourselves. The staff has super high expectations of their team and of themselves. And We're just an ambitious. It's an ambitious culture. It's a mentality, and I think you put that mentality and you mix in work ethic and lifestyle outside of the room, and it you start to make bigger jumps faster, and you catch up and you develop quicker and at a much faster rate than maybe in a different place. I think environment is one of the invisible hands that shapes behavior. You know what I mean? And when you put yourself in an environment that influences you heavily in a good way, good things are going to happen. That's not the only thing. The environment's not the only thing, but I think it's just Raleigh, it's NC State, it's the culture of the program, and I think that makes the biggest difference when it comes to development and how kids come in and where they finish.
Yeah, I could definitely attest to what you're saying too. I got a chance to kind of see how you guys get things done over there. It's everything that you're saying is true from what I've seen. It's really interesting to see. Another thing I want to get into, because you're as I mentioned earlier, you're on the national team now, Olympic hopeful. Last time I got a chance to see you wrestle at the NYAC Bill Farrell Open, where you made it to the finals up against Schneider. With everything going on, like how are you? The Olympics have been pushed back and everything. How are you going about everything now, still with your training and everything and your focus?
It's tough, man. It's not ideal. It's not what I wish was going on, but it's not the worst thing that could happen. I think if I sit back and I look at everything that's been going on and how I've had to adjust, life could be a lot worse. So I'm still thankful, man. There's still a lot of good things that I'm able to do. I'm still able to train. So right now, our RTC, we're running out of a space where we were able to put down 2 full mats, and we're able to wrestle there. Lifting out of our garage, so we have some weight stuff where we're able to still get our conditioning and our cardio and our strength training in. So it's not bad, man. It's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. So training has still been good. Thankfully, we've still been able to make jumps and improvements, but definitely not how I wish things were going on right now.
Right.
Yeah. What about how are things with you?
Me, it's been, well, I just graduated, so it's been right now. I'm kind of just looking for like a study work with the degree that I'm I have, and it hasn't been easy, trying to be able to do that, I guess practices aren't exactly the same. I know I talked to some people in certain companies, and they're kind of letting me know that they're not even back in their offices, so it's hard to gauge new employees or even possible interns, because they're not doing their job the same way that they're accustomed to doing. So it's been tough, but being able to get on a platform that I have here and talk to people like you is something that's helping me out tremendously. And I thank you.
I think you're gonna do great, man.
I appreciate that, bro. I really
I appreciate you having me on.
Definitely. Are there any tournaments coming on? I know Flo's putting together some stuff that you might end up next.
There's this cage wrestling thing that I think Chael Sonnen is putting on. So Tommy Gant and Nick are actually wrestling in that out in Oregon. It's like a cage wrestling match. That'll happen within the next couple of weeks. And then there's a World Team Trials tournament, but I think it's just for matches. I don't think it's not going to change national team stipends. It's not. I don't know if World Championships is going to be had this year. If it does get had, then whoever wins that tournament will be the one who goes. But I don't know. We'll see, man. But nothing coming up soon, man. Hopefully I can get on one of these cards and make some money. So
definitely, man. I'd love to see that.
Man, I miss competing too. So.
Well, I was gonna say, what are your goals coming in? You're planning on competing in 97 again?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay 97. Continue to just kind of put a little bit more weight on, not too much more. And yeah, just get ready for Olympic trials in April, and Lord willing, hopefully Tokyo as well.
Definitely, man. Love to hear. I want to thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, Rich.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We're out here rooting for you big time. Mike Macchiavello, thank you for coming on the rundown. We'll be with you guys next time.